You're listening to Faith in Action. I'm your host, Matthew and Shawn.
And I'm Sean Graham.
We lead Conservative Christians of Tennessee, and we are thankful you're listening to the show. Conservative Christians of Tennessee exists to analyze political policy and politicians in Tennessee, and all from a conservative Christian worldview. To support Conservative Christians of Tennessee in our educational efforts, public policy analysis, and other needed endeavors, you can give a one-time or a recurring gift at patreon.com/TN Christian. And thank you to our sponsors. You guys are helping us out. We want to glorify God by helping you to glorify God. So please don't hesitate to send us questions and comments via email. You can reach me directly by emailing Matthew@tnchristian.com.
Or Sean, SHAWN, @tnchristian.com.
Today's show is brought to you in the Memphis area by Herbie Systems. Give Herbie Systems a call at 901-290-7774 for all your lawn care needs. Since 1984, Herbie Systems has been the premier lawn care and landscape company in the Mid-South. So give Herbie Systems a call. Again, that's 901-290-7774, or visit herbiesystems.com and let them kill your weeds. And go ahead and do that today. Our scripture for today is from 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 4. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. So listener, Sean and I watched the headlines more than most, and several large issues that we think are going to have big impacts keep jumping out. First, we have states pushing to remove parental consent for minor children seeking gender procedures. Second, there's renewed pressure to restrict churches from speaking on so-called political issues or risk their tax-exempt status. And third, we're watching the continued normalization of assisted suicide expanding across Western nations. And let's be honest, assisted suicide always leads to euthanasia. Now, those are issues that Sean and I are talking through, but we also look at things like the America 250 response, and we talk about that. We read up on it. We reach out to other people that we trust to help us dig into the big biblical principles that really kind of sit on top, beside, in, and behind these issues. I was able to sit in recently with a podcast with Strength for Life Pensacola, and we discussed the founding peoples and principles before America was founded, because, there were 150 plus years of history before America was founded. We talked about those, the people that made up America, the principles, our political and civil heritage, as well as our religious heritage. And let me tell you, those all were just incredibly intertwined. And I'd encourage you, go ahead and check that out. You can search Strength for Life Pensacola on any major podcasting platform to find that. But next week is going to be the culmination of that. And for our Independence Day episode, we're going to have Bill Federer, Charlie Kirk's history mentor, joining us to talk about this celebration of our nation's founding. But a lot of our conversations don't ever make it to an episode. We have just a limited amount of time every week. And how do you fit in everything that we talk about? And the answer is we don't. Sometimes Sean and I talk about topics that we can't really bring onto the radio, or that we don't feel that we're mature enough in our understanding of all the issues and ready to really bring it to our listeners. This is a process that everyone can engage in. You need to be asking people you know and trust to discuss issues that you're looking into, and issues that are points of controversy in the church and in the culture, because you need to be on the right side of issues. You need to study so that you can show yourself approved and be biblically sound on these issues. And if you think that your church is staying silent on any issue, remember, you are the church. And if you're talking about it, the church and our communities will benefit from the time that you take to understand it better. And of course, you need to be doing that for the glory of God. Today's format is going to be a little different. Sean and I are going to do something we've come to love to call 3 questions. We're going to take 3 topics that we just kind of torn from today's social media and from cultural conversations. You'll notice that we didn't list Fox News on there, and we'll examine them from a biblical perspective. We're going to talk first off about what we call Church Super Bowl month. The Southern Baptist Convention, the Presbyterian Church in America, a lot of denominations have their meetings in the summer, and this is really the Super Bowl for them. Did you know that? And more importantly, listener, do you know what your denomination is doing? Do you know the big issues that are being discussed? So, Shawn, let's just dive into this.
Well, June is the Super Bowl. If you're in a denomination as a Christian, as someone who is practicing the faith in the American church today, and most people are associated with some, even if it's a non-denominational church, they're in some way affiliated with some sort of missions program or some sort of outreach. There are organizations and structures, whether it's a local, a state, there's all kinds of things. So all these events happen. It seems like one just bang, bang, bang right after another. You started out with the big cat daddy of the SBC. All the Baptists come together every year. You know, you've got the millions that are represented through that one organization. They come together with their government structure for the 2 days of the year that they legally exist as a denomination. That's their claim to fame. But they do a business meeting for 2 days a year. Then the Presbyterians do theirs. Then a lot of the smaller denominations do theirs throughout the rest of the summer. So we're in the middle of that right now, Matthew. And listeners, if you're in a denomination that I didn't name your name, you probably need to ask around and find out, when is ours? When do we meet and have our governance? Because that's the big thing is I would say more than half the people in every church, they have no idea when the governance of their denomination even is talked about. They don't have this as a, oh, hey, it's on our calendar. We're going to the Presbyterian, the PCA event, and it's going to be in, they don't know where it is because they don't know when it is. They don't know what's being discussed. So all of these issues don't get into the churches, and that to the people, that's who the church is these people in the pews. So this issue of whatever it is that's dramatic this year, whether it's women in the ministry, or whether it's the abuse scandal, or whether it's right now going through the Presbyterian, their whole issue, there's a lot of struggle with them and what they're going to do with Christian nationalism. Well, that dialogue's been going on for a while, and our members in the pews need to be up on that, because frankly, if you don't know what's going on in your denomination, it's your job.
Let's just list a couple of these, because a lot of people might not even be aware that their denomination has one and what their meeting is called. The Southern Baptist Convention is, of course, the annual meeting of the Southern Baptist Convention. And I mean, that's 12 to 17 million Christians or pseudo-Christians or posers are in that denomination, just depending on, I want to say, I think the great majority of them are Christian. But, hey, man, that was more a joke than anything. So please, angry emails Shawn at tnchristian.com.
Great. Throw me under the bus. I love it.
So they have an annual meeting, which is that Southern Baptist Convention. That was June 9th through 10th. And we did a couple episodes leading up to this, including interviewing newly elected President Willie Rice before he was elected. And they talked about major issues. They talked about the office of the pastor and really clarifications on women in pastoral roles. And they took the first step towards formally limiting the role of pastor to men. I argue that it was limited to men already, but they took a step to just nail that down even tighter. They discussed the disability ministry, abuse response and credentials. They discussed immigration, which is really big. They discussed political violence, artificial intelligence, cooperative program funding, etc. And then here, this next one is an example of why these meetings are important, because obviously the right people have not been at the meetings with this group for a long time. The left tends to send, but the United Methodist Church, they had their regional annual conferences and their council of bishops, but they discussed post-schism unity and restructuring. And then they discussed LGBTQ plus inclusion. So the normal guys like you and me, Shawn, that are working jobs, they stayed away from these meetings. And that's why their denomination, a big reason if you control these meetings, you control the denomination, and that's really where you steer them.
Exactly. I would say this, Matthew, I'll go a step further. Mm-hmm. I think the erosion of every mainline denomination now, because that's exactly what we've seen happen in history. We've watched every mainline denomination shift to unbiblical stances and into really a position where they've lost their biblical footing. And it's every one of them now. And so we can say that the people in the pews allowed that to happen. And that's heartbreaking, because if people like you and I really want our church to hold to certain values or to hold to traditions, that's on us to make sure it happens.
You're exactly right. The next issue, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America and the National Baptist Convention, The National Baptist Convention, September 7th through 10th in Orlando. They're stuck in 2019 because they're discussing empowerment and racial reconciliation. ELCA is still stuck in 2019. They're discussing racial equity, climate justice, LGBTQ plus inclusion. National Baptist Convention of America.
Well, I mean, think about this, though, Matthew. At least the textbooks that they're presenting are on discount in the back shelf. So that's one benefit from those denominations.
Yeah. The PCUSA, the Liberal Presbyterian Church, meets June 22nd through July 2nd this year. So as the show airs, they're still discussing social justice, ordination stand. You know, they are discussing whether or not you have to be in monogamous relationships in order to be a pastor. They're wanting to allow for polygamy. The Assembly of God, led by Superintendent Doug Clay, they meet biennially. So they're going to meet next in 2027. I appreciate their focus on evangelism. That's always a major topic. I joke that every other, the Southern Baptist Convention educates everyone, a third of pastors annually, and then everybody else uses their textbooks. But I also joke, because it's true, that everyone gets saved in the Assemblies of God before they become Presbyterian. So
that's all right.
But
thank God for the AOG, man.
Yeah. And then, of course, the PCA met June 22nd through the 26th in Louisville, Kentucky. Kevin DeYoung, is he going to be the stated clerk again? He might not be.
I don't know what's going on with their process this year because I haven't had a chance to follow it as closely. But I do know from watching people on the outside, it does seem like their local reps are very much in tune with what's going on there, and they all seem to be pushing their agendas again. So that's good to hear. I'm really glad to hear that there's local activism coming out of these regions.
Yeah. And then one last group that I want to mention is the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. They are the faithful confessional Lutherans by and large. I mean, I think a lot of people in the pew are faithful and confessional. They're going to elect a president, and I'm not excited about either of them, but they're talking about pastoral formation and ordination routes, dispute resolution, mission board structure, life issues, AI and social concerns, and overtures on governance and transparency. And transparency is one that I would have expected to see in more of these groups. The Southern Baptist Convention did touch on that, but I don't know if they really made any headway on that. But it's important that you know your denomination is doing the right things. And if you tithe, which you should be, if you tithe, you have an obligation to take those talents that God has given you, speaking literally of the biblical currency. You don't want to feed the beast. You want to feed the kingdom. And
that's right.
Too many people don't know where their tithe dollars are going. You don't want to be that guy that's harping on what everybody's getting paid necessarily. You might want to see broad categorical payment structures, or, I think folks in very high ranking positions with high salaries, maybe that should be public, but you do need to know what's going on because you have to steward what God has given you. And if you are just blindly giving, I don't think you're stewarding.
Good points. And I will tell you this. I think that there is a responsibility that comes with denominational membership. And I think that when you pick a church and you decide, hey, I'm going to attend this church, part of what you're signing on for is, hey, that is a XYZ denomination church. I am aligning myself with them. And as part of that, I'm going to participate and make that denomination stronger. So I think that that's our duty. And if we're shirking that responsibility, I don't think that we're doing our duty as the church. And I mean, Matthew, we can look at history. They haven't been faithful to their denominations, and the denominations have suffered. And I hate that. So it's time, people, listeners, if you don't know about your denomination, start having these conversations with your church members, your church leadership, and other people in the pews next to you. Get involved and understand these topics.
For sure. And folks, before we go on to the next topic, I want to make sure that we discuss Navita IT Managed Services. They're a great sponsor of our show, and they are more than a help desk. They're more than a network administrator. Navita has decades of business consulting and analytics experience, and they're different than a lot of IT companies that just react to whatever it is that just broke, because Navita proactively looks ahead to understand how money, relationships, and people flow through your business or your church. Navita IT Managed Services is going to work to keep you growing as a healthy part of God's kingdom. And again, they help both churches and businesses at Navita steward their resources to become the best business and church leaders possible. So write this website down and visit navitait.com today. That's navitait.com today to learn more about Navita IT Managed Solutions. And we are excited to have a Christian-owned business like Navita on board with us this year. And we know that if you give them a chance, you're going to love using Navita for all your IT solutions because their existing customers do. And we're back with 3 questions.
Well, this is my turn to ask the question, and I want to ask you, Matthew, we have harped on media being untrustworthy or media covering things with a bad slant and things like that. But over this past month, you and I have personally watched a friend of ours get covered by the media with his Christian business. We're talking here about Josh Abatoy and RidgeRunnerUSA.com. What we're talking about is their land development in Middle Tennessee. They were on Fox and Friends. They were on Politico. They had several media opportunities talking about this in their land. So for anybody who thinks that we're always harping on the media and saying it's always bad, this seems to be opposite of that. Am I right?
Well, you're half right because there's a lot of mixed coverage. And, the truth is that all of this coverage, this is one of those situations where any publicity is good publicity because the people that are going to support Ridge Runner, which is just essentially a place for Christian folks to come and have a community. It's a planned community. It's a planned town. They're going to read through whatever media outlet is trying to bash Ridge Runner. And so what do I mean when I say that there are media outlets trying to, well, when I go through what I use Brave browser because I don't trust the big guys. And when I use their AI news thing, I look up Ridge Runner in the news thing. I see thesisdriven.com, reinventing the tribe, Ridge Runner, and the new American village, how a new model for rural communities built on shared identity is driving both demand and backlash. So that's a Brett Hargraves. I skimmed through this. It's pretty balanced. But then go over to Rolling Stone. Their headline, a company is building communities for right-wing Christians. Some neighbors aren't happy, and then it's got like an exploded American flag, except it's got the cross is on the blue field instead of stars. But it's an agenda. It's a hit piece, and then even go back a couple of years to, who was it? It was the Telegraph, that British newspaper. Mm-hmm. And, meant like you and I and some other media personalities in Memphis have joked, although it's not a joke, that we couldn't land in England. We get arrested at the airport for things that we've said on social media, on air. Probably less you, Shawn, I would be, but Josh would get arrested, I think.
Most definitely.
Even though even though he doesn't say the crazy things that I do on social media, but, he would get arrested for it.
The stuff that they say about him is ridiculous. I mean, we have it in Nashville media where you have news outlets that talk about him as if he was bringing in Klan rallies and stuff like that, trying to associate him with the worst parts of our culture. Yeah. But the reality is the people who are associating with him are me and you and the neighbors down the street at our churches. Everybody who's associating with this has a reason for wanting to associate with other Christians and other believers and other Americans. We've seen time and time again that these communities and neighborhoods, when left to their own devices, become unlivable. And what we're seeing with Ridge Runner and these planned development, and they're seeing these things from Silicon Valley. People are coming from all over the country. They're very encouraged about something like this because you get the better part of Tennessee without the worst part of poor government. Mm-hmm. We were talking, the other day, the one-room schoolhouse, the multi-function church that used to function for government and for public discourse. It doesn't exist anymore. Well, in a place like Ridge Runner, you think about people like the farm to table operation that's going on there that benefits that whole community. They're all going to be plugged in with the well-being of that farmland and the beauty and the upkeep of it. They're not coming in and clear cutting the trees. They're making the place better and more usable. And it's for generations. They're not doing it to profiteer. They're not carpetbaggers coming in to profit and run. Josh is a long time. He grew up. This is the woods he hunted in, as he's told me the stories about this. So I'm very encouraged that this is ancestry being lived out properly. And I hope that this catches on more. And I mean, look, I hope the guys make a lot of money off of it. I hope it's great. But really what I hope comes out of it is families and communities that make Tennessee a better place for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Listeners, I want to bring an important topic to you. And that's the privilege that we have every week of reminding you about the mission of equipping the persecuted. Equipping the persecuted has been on the ground for years now, doing the Lord's work to save Christians and rescue Christian orphans. These persecuted Christians are in Nigeria and they need food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and help building a safer way of life. If you give a monthly donation to Equipping the Persecuted, you're going to create sustainable help for real Christians that have been attacked by brutal Muslim jihadists. So please visit equippingthepersecuted.org today. You can sponsor an orphan for $35 a month. Now you can actually order African coffee and have it shipped straight to your home. And every bag of Equipping the Persecuted coffee that you purchase does more than fill your cup. It's going to strengthen the body of Christ. Again, 100% of those proceeds go directly to support persecuted Christians in Nigeria. Try any of their great flavors today. Again, that's equippingthepersecuted.org and the persecuted Christians in Nigeria. Thank you. And we're back again with 3 questions. Shoot, Shawn.
Well, I get to throw this one to you because I know you're excited about this. I've seen your video. By the way, that podcast that you were on was fantastic. Great guests that they had on other episodes as well. Everybody wants to get into America 250 maxing. They need to go watch that so that they know the history. Mm-hmm. The reality of it is, and you and I were talking beforehand, like, did I live through the last one? Yeah, I'm old. You're making fun of me. I get it.
Oh, I wasn't. I wanted to know the difference between then and now because it doesn't seem like a lot of people are America 250 maxing.
Yeah. So I don't remember it. I mean, I was young, but I do remember as a kid growing up, and there were a whole lot more American flags. There were a whole lot more rah, rah, USA, Olympic spirit kind of stuff as a kid. And it just went away, it seemed, in the 80s. That kind of stuff just melted. And so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And what I'm really hoping is that parents and grandparents listening to this show will jump in, take advantage of this moment, and disciple your kids with this moment. There's tons of things you can go do. So what would you encourage people to do in Tennessee right now to take this moment and pour into their kids?
Well, so first of all, you need to be reading books to your kids. We're in the middle with our, now 6-year-old son of going through a biography of Robert Fulton, who was a, gunsmith and inventor, and he made guns for the Continental Army in the American Revolution. And my son is just zoned in so hard on this, and it's fun to see him learning about the people, and in this case, specifically one of the people that made America. Of course, the other 2 kids hear mom and dad reading to him, and they're learning too. So second, you need to find events to go to. And there's 2 reasons that you need to do that. The first is, of course, because your kids need to be there and they need to see what's happening, and they need to understand that Americans come together like the church, because, we'll talk about this next week with Bill, but traditionally the church and the community, those were very intertwined, much more than they are now. The second reason you need to go to these is because you need to meet people that also think going to things like this and celebrating America are important. I mean, you might even want to just like have some little cards printed up with a QR code that, where you can give a card to somebody, they can scan your phone number, because it is that important to meet people. And I will tell you, in the good times and the bad times, those are going to be the people that you want in your life. I was going to say that you want around your children. Be careful there, because you want to always, you don't just want to invite somebody into your family life because you meet them at this place, but you may as an adult want to get to know them, and then they may be the best people in the world to have around you. They might invite you to their church. You might invite them to your church, but regardless, these are often going to be good people. Now, you do need to use discernment, because they're not all going to be Christians. Some of them are going to have a very secular view of the American founding, but then again, you already have common ground with these people. So it's also a great place to evangelize. So just take advantage of that. Put yourself in good places. And Shawn, we have a really good list.
I've got a whole list of things going on around the state. I mean, there's a lot going on. I think one of the things that people need to understand is that between Saturday, June 27th and July 4th, there's enough stuff to keep everybody busy. So get out and go do something with your family. Enjoy and celebrate this with other people in our state. Enjoy, whether it's fireworks or food or church services. We've got stuff going on from Chester County to Shelby County. There are church services going on. I know, we've got different politicians that are speaking at different events in Memphis, and I know in Nashville, they've got a fireworks show.
One thing that I really want to emphasize, because it looked so cool, was what Discovery Park of America is doing in Union City. So they've got their Tennessee America 250, celebrating 250 years of independence events. They also have a separate event that's running longer, which is David Wright's Patriot to Pioneers, the first Tennessee Volunteers. And that's an exhibition at Discovery Park of America in Union City. It's going to run June 30th of 2026 through February 1st of 2027. And visit discoveryparkofamerica.com. I like that place. It's great for kids. It's not going to have a distinctly Christian focus unless a lot of Christians go. And then you can bring your own Christian focus with you. But again, go to these things. Folks, we are out of time. Check out our show notes today for sure, because again, we have lists of activities that you can do with your family. Dads, make sure to have a security plan in place everywhere you go. And, also remember, God created man. Samuel Colt made them equal. Take that with you as you travel. Remember, folks, on tnchristian.com, we have links to past shows and articles about current events affecting Tennessee and all the Mid-South region. If you want to support our work, please be sure to visit patreon.com/tnchristian. And until next week, remember our favorite promise from the book of Exodus: the Lord shall reign forever and ever.